Like love. Love is worth saving.
I don't know love.
Now encompasses every.
Oh, hey, welcome. This is the belt of truth, dude. Yeah, the belt of truth background storage stream. Look at that wizard on the pirate ship Carnival. What? Yes. Yes. Okay, then here we are. Background story. What's that about? Let's see if we can get there. Hi. Hello. I see the assassins have failed. I am General Griswold Gaius Grim of the First LARP Ingression Protocol Shapers. Aren't we all? And you're at a stream or a replay of it. First, as I pointed to the new grift at the top of the Hive Mind chat, the Deadwood Estuary Campfire Potlucks. I have to say that they're not all grifts. Sometimes I follow through, and now look, I have one of these now. And so if you've always wanted to take me down to Astana for one of the Thanksgiving things, I can go now. Remember it.
This agency. We walk past.
It's a whisper in your ear, now listen here. Remember, embody, it's all so clear. No hidden strings, no puppeteer. We're by your side, have no fear. I cherish truth. I cherish truth. Remember, embody, there is no agency. We want what's best for you.
And special thanks to the Shadow Cabal, including our executive producers, Upcycle Club and the German Dragon. Apparently it's getting windy outside. Okay, you guys need saving throws against the mind control I'm giving you right now, don't you know, as well as the stuff you're swimming in. If you only count commercials. To get one, you only have to make a simple choice. You don't have to say it in the Hive Mind chat when you make the choice, but you get a +2 if you do. You choose between survival, social, wisdom, or heart as the basis for your resistance to the mind control. Unless you're Rick Walker, then you choose mind control. Survival, social, wisdom, or heart. Choose. Survivalist with a 6 today, meaning you have not made your savings throw unless you've gotten some bonuses. Socialists, on the other hand, prime 17. You'll be fine today. You've made your savings throw. It's over 10, even without the bonuses. Lovers of wisdom, 4. A 4 for you. You're going to need some. However, the hard folks, you get bonuses +3 to next stream save because you got a nat 20 today. And I bet you that's because Sherry's in the house. Indigo Kids, all 7 chakras for you. And those are the savings throws for the Belt of Truth show. Background story. Wow, that's one of the storied background. No, we've got, I have cards, I have tabs, I have comments. We got a lot. Everything's fine.
Is everything all right in here?
Yes, Nanny.
I said everything's fine.
We all know that there is no agency any living gent can see. Doing what is right for me is lifting up my bro so he can grow some eyes to see that doing what is right for me increases all our agency.
What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile? What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile? What makes you assume that I'm not about to feed you all to the crocodile?
That's very exciting. Hello. I see the assassins have failed.
Did you get it on video? That I'm not about
Imagine a world where boundaries blur between reality and fiction, with Mikhail Gorbachev leading the charge. Gorbachev didn't just challenge political norms, he dared to break the fourth wall in storytelling. "Tear down that fourth wall," he exclaimed, inviting us into a new era of engagement. His metaphorical call wasn't for Berlin alone. It was a clarion call to storytellers and audiences alike. Engage directly, break barriers, and foster a dialogue. Gorbachev's words echo in the halls of creativity. As storytellers, it's our turn to tear down that fourth wall, inspired by Gorbachev's daring challenge. Join us in this creative revolution. Tear down the walls that confine your stories. Share, like, and subscribe for more inspiration.
If by our disposition, by the state of our being, we perceive things. If by our disposition, by the state of our being, we perceive things. And if we're in a clear space, we perceive things accurately, at least close to accurately. But if we're not, we perceive things in a distorted way. So one example of this is, right, from the Middle Ages, the idea of God's love, right? That if you're in a state of sin, God's love feels like fire that burns you, hurts, right? Feels a rage. But if you're in a state of grace, it feels like warmth or light. God hasn't changed. It's your disposition that allows you to perceive it one way or another. And I think that's a really true principle. And that's why in my own the task of the Christian in our time is the same as it has always been, to build the kingdom of God in this world, right? And you've probably heard this, and one of the things that drives me crazy when Christians say this, they say, well, the earth is not our real home. Yes, it is. It is too. And that's what Thomas Merton is saying. That's actually what, even though in Gnostic scriptures, you can get the impression that the world is evil and everything is evil in the world, and you have to go into the real world, and there is something, there is some of that in there, but the take home is that what makes you, and the thing is, what the world we see, we see two worlds. We see the world of corruption and of the archons, right? You can't help it. It's all over the place, right? It's in politics. But we also see, the kingdom of God. We see the real world, right? Which they penetrate. There's a wonderful example of Yaka Burma.
We don't need any examples. This is Michael Martin's latest piece, which is fascinatingly over on his channel. Where is the Zoom? Why is the Zoom so small? His new title here, The World Rulers and the Armor of Light, and like a surprising amount of others. Look at this, 5,000 views already. What a way to land a jackpot on a title there, pal. And we'll be going over clips to that today because it's all Gnostic and stuff. And we like that sort of thing. Do you have the Nephilim one loaded? No. No, you have yesterday's still loaded. Okay, so the Belt of Truth part will come at the end of the Michael Martin coverage, and the background story part comes in right after Jordan Greenhall's first post-hurricane interview, as far as we know, over at the Chad the Alcoholic stream. That looks like this. He decided he would wear the lobster mask for this one. Thanks for that, Chet. Thanks for that, Chad. And but even more fascinating, today this morning on the Friday Morning Nameless, about 33 minutes and 11 seconds in, this happened.
Oh yeah, this guy, Mr. Jer.
Hey man, how you doing? How's it going?
Yeah.
I thought I'd support you, Smothers. Try to keep myself a bit busy, keep you a bit busy. How are you keeping?
Yeah, it's doing great here. It's I'm really glad to see.
Let me tell you all a story about a man named Jer.
In response to the drama of an earlier week, right? Where this character was on and talking about Grim, and so I watched that video, right? And I mean, firstly, the guy's point is ridiculous, but anyway, not Grim.
Do you guys, anybody know what drama Jer's talking about? What's the name of this lobster monkey? Brought to you by the Shadow Cabal.
Special thanks to the Shadow Cabal. So say we all.
The other guy, right? But that's not what I want to talk about. But looking at Grim, right? I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about how Grim looks at things in a different way, and man, I got that vibe. Like Grim is with the orb, right? Grim is a scryer. Grim is looking at a level of things that are different, right? Which is very interesting. And I was thinking,
this portion of the show brought to you by the Fraternal Regiment, embodying narcissistic sociopathy. We're coming for the crown of brotherhood, and that'll make us the good guys.
What came to my mind, right? Because you were bringing up these little clips, you know, and the branding, what people are calling the branding, right? And I thought to myself, there's a subtleness there about the branding that's not directly connected to the type of topic that we think is always discussed in the corner, right? It's not, you know, if you saw 5 years ago that branding, you wouldn't just immediately go, fuck yeah, that's my vibe, that they're my people, right? But if you heard the topic, you'd be like, yeah, there's something about that. And yet the people who have the relationships that we're looking for, who have that kind of brainwave that we're also thinking about, are outputting this branding. Mm-hmm. And it made me think of Jordan Peterson with his jacket, right? Because I have an idea that Jordan with his jacket, what he's doing is he's normalizing the presence of religious iconography in a way that it's like, yeah, it is here, it is present, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, the business world, or we're talking about history, or we're talking about social dynamics. And this is just simply the context that he's creating that pattern, right? I was wondering about like the branding, I mean, it's like this vibe, it's this scent, this spirit, it's this manifestation of the spirit that's inside.
He showed up. He showed up at the 33rd minute, so I thought he was going to be saying the part in the transcript isn't available yet. At some point, he says, there's a pirate carnival and there's a wizard, and that's how this image got made, and that's why I included it. But since they're talking about the branding, don't take my sunshine away. And we're almost to the part where we go into the archons and the rulers and the Gnosticness, and that is the bliss of the Michael Martin fellow who was with Pastor Paul Van der Clay at the Pacific Northwest UA, both speakers hanging out in the speaker room, getting speaker savings throws available in the members-only section in the Pastor Paul's channel if you want the background footage. Casino deck card of the show is the 5. The 5 of hearts.
I don't want to know how things are to be. I want to exert action as long as I live, so that the sort of things which should, in my opinion, be, have more chances of being. If they're all set, it doesn't interest me anymore to see the year 2000 than it interests me to see the year 1000. The merit of the future is that it is not set. The merit of the future is that it is not set. The merit of the future is that it is not set. If they're all set, the merit of the future is that it is not set. The merit of the future is that it is the area in which we can exert our will, exert our efforts, and try to validate our values. That is the merit of the future.
Franco asks, what's your highest demographic, all ye who stream? And that would depend what you mean by highest. So in my analysis of this Michael Martin masterpiece, The World Rulers and the Armor of Light, I have timestamps that are completely unlabeled. Here's the first one.
To go back where I started, I've been thinking about this notion of the archons, the world rulers in Gnosticism through this whole time. I'll read a little quote from the Nag Hammadi library from the Apocryphon of John, where it kind of describes what an archon is. It says, no.
Should we stop by the AI and ask it what the Nag Hammadi is, or are you all on board?
The archon who is weak has 3 names. The first name is Yeldabaoth, the second is Saklas, the third is Samael. And he is impious in his madness, which is in him, for he said, I am God, and there is no other God beside me. For he is ignorant of his strength, the place from which he had come. So the idea here in Gnosticism is that, and I like it. I mean, if you know, Philip K. Dick draws a lot on Gnosticism in some of his later novels and in his kind of crazy book, the Exegesis, which is worth reading, but it's crazy. Pardon me. So the idea in Gnosticism is that God created the world, but that a kind of bastard child of Sophia, Yaldabaoth, was born, and he thought he was God. He thought he was the creator, right? So mistakenly, he thinks he's God. And so in Gnosticism, you have these archons, or these world powers, and they're spiritual world powers, that run and organize things and work to basically enslave human beings, right? By not letting them have the knowledge of their own reality. And St. Paul, in the letter to the Ephesians, it's kind of really famous quote from Ephesians, but this is what he's talking about, right? He's not talking about the Romans or the Pharisees. And I'll read it for you right here. He says, "For our struggle is not against the enemies of blood and flesh, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places."
Boy, for any of you who read it, the saying that this present darkness line, that's oh, thank you. Ups, we'll get to that back when my narcissism demands it. I do want to throw out in what he's saying that I understand that the archons have not the creative spark. Like, they're hyper analytic and they can do wonderful things with creation and tinker with things, but the actual creative oomph they have none of. But he doesn't go into that, so maybe he'd disagree. What else do you have stamped? 1420. Here we go.
I also think, and whether they know it or not, and this would be interesting for a discussion in the comments, I think, whether or not these world rulers, these political world rulers, are actually guided or inspired by what the Gnostics would have, or St. Paul would have called the spiritual world rulers, or, they're demonic forces is what they are, right? So, but I am.
Are they? It's great. You should definitely. It's worth reading just to know what it was like back in the 90s spiritually. Here's the next timestamp.
That's the archons, right? They think they're gods, and they mock God. Now, if you notice, when I read the passage from the Nag Hammadi, in the Gnostic understanding is that the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge, or is the archon who thinks he created things.
What?
Now, I would, and they mock God. Now, if you notice, when I read the passage from the Nag Hammadi, in the Gnostic understanding is that the God of the Old Testament is the demiurge, or is the archon who thinks he created things. Now, I would not go that far, but I get it. But also for the Gnostics, it's Jesus who is a salvific role in leading people to knowledge about what reality is and who they themselves are, right? So I mean, it's really it's outrageous if you think about all the things that were perpetrated upon us over the last 5 years. And as I mentioned in some other videos, they all have the hallmarks of black magic upon them as well. But I really,
what Reapers? That man just said there's hallmarks of black magic in his previous videos.
And black magic, I was talking to somebody just yesterday. They were asking, do you really think it's mind control? Like they're really working with demons or whatever? Now, and put it this way, they may not.
Yes, we really think it's mind control. That second part, we don't say.
Demons or whatever. Now, and put it this way, they may not know they are, but they are. I know from experience that this is how it works. That the demonic is a real thing in the world. And I think right now it's kind of interesting to see what we call the parody of the human being that's being presented to us through the media, or also how, you know, like one of the prophecies of Fatima, the third prophecy of Fatima, I think it's the third, is that the last battle between God and Satan would be over the family. And we can see this over.
Oh, and then the real world timely example he uses is a real kicker. You should check it out yourself. But then the part I wanted to get to.
It's a spiritual kind of knowledge. There's a great book, which you might want to get this if you have children. It's about like teenagers. This is a great book by David Bentley Hart called Kenogaya, A Gnostic Tale. And I tried to encourage them to take A Gnostic Tale off there, not because it's not a Gnostic Tale, it is, but I thought it might discourage some Christians from buying the book if they see that, oh, I can't get that, it's Gnostic. But he didn't want to take it off. You know, more power to him. But it's a retelling of the Gnostic Hymn of the Pearl, which is a great example of kind of a Gnostic fairy tale. And in the Hymn of the Pearl, there's this, you know, a young man, a prince, is sent into the world by his father, the king, to retrieve a pearl that's guarded by a dragon. And he's sent into Egypt. You know, Egypt is the symbol for corruption or worldliness. And he sends him, but he tells him, you know, as in fairy tales, there's always a prohibition. He said, don't eat the food. If you eat their food, you will forget who you are. And the boy, of course, goes to Egypt, and then by accident, he eats the food, forgets who he is. And then his father has to sends a letter to him in the form of an eagle. And when the eagle comes to the boy, it turned. I love the way it says it. It says it turned and it transformed into pure language. And the boy hears his father's voice say,
"Unto thee, our son in Egypt, greeting. Wake and rise up from thy sleep. Give ear to the words of our letter. Remember that thou art a king's son. See whom thou hast served in thy slavedom. Be mindful of the pearl, for whose sake thou didst journey into Egypt. Remember thy robe of glory. Recall thy splendid mantle, that thou mayst put them on and deck thyself with them, and thy name may be read in the book of heroes. And with our successor, thy sister, thou mayest be heir in our kingdom."
I should really take the end cards off of that one.
May be read in the book of heroes. And with our successor, thy sister, thou mayest be heir in our kingdom.
But right after this, Michael Martin's branding. Of the story, the way he tells the story.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. We're in business. Oh, I'm way over here. Oh, well.
Yeah, play like we're out in the crowd.
Something like that.
That ceiling fan psyop is wild. Is wild. Why spoon is the question. All right, then there, and now here's his version of the thing. The
son, I sent you into Egypt to retrieve the pearl. You've forgotten why I sent you. Return, finish your mission. Return to you, and you can sit up beside me and your brother and your mother, the queen, and you will be restored to your true self. And that's what we're all sent here to do. We all have a mission, right? We have to remember who we are, and we have to know what reality is in order to realize. But we're at this moment where the archons, right? The spiritual world rulers in high places are really battling us, and this is what St. Paul say to do as a result. Right? Here's how he follows up. He says, "Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, so that you may be able to withstand on that evil day, and having done everything to stand firm. Stand therefore and fasten the belt of truth around your waist, and put on the breastplate of righteousness. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. With all of these, take the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times, in every prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert always."
Now the way I'm covering it is we're gonna get to the why I titled this "The Belt of Truth" momentarily, but I always have difficulty remembering the armor of God, so it was really handy that he went through it here, particularly this part.
Firm. Stand therefore and fasten the belt of truth around your waist.
And since I can't stop myself, we're going to get to that now. Notice how he said fasten the belt of truth, right? And then back here in the ancient story he was telling,
young man, a prince, is sent into the world by his father, the king, to retrieve a pearl that's guarded by a dragon. And he's sent into Egypt. Egypt is the symbol for corruption or worldliness. And he sends him, but he tells him, as in fairy tales, there's always a prohibition. He said, don't eat the food. If you eat their food, you will forget who you are. And
so if you eat their food, you forget who that you are. But if you fast, and the belt of truth of who you are might be revealed to you. Ba-dum-bum. Okay, and then we're at this part.
Therefore, and fasten the belt of truth around your waist, and put on the breastplate of righteousness. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. With all of these, take the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the flames.
And the shield of faith was like a flashback to this weekend's Defense Against the Dark Arts Protego spell.
Flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the...
And the helmet of salvation, to me, that's knowing that you can stand clean in forgiveness thanks to the blood of Christ, and that's the helmet of salvation. What do you think it is? Oh.
The word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times, in every prayer and supplication. To that end,
pray in the Spirit. That sounds to me like in speaking tongues, but what do I know? What do I know?
Maybe we're not. Okay. Where are we at?
any concern what you all think Monic
Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead.
The desert bodies souls of the Nephilim who were killed during the flood that gave into human bodies when angels had sex rituals with humans in the antediluvian world, who are now trying to distract human beings from God and seek their own destruction so that humans don't ever get elevated above angels in the age to come. Isn't that complicated?
Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead. Oh yeah, he's just like, yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Go ahead.
So then, of course, there is a level line. The difference between God and us is God always says exactly what it means. He never can.
Toy box in my head, a Grim Grizz toy box, and in that toy box, the character of Grim Grizz has a couple associations. One of them is pirates. Another one is, so there's going to include a lot of ships, ocean, water. There's going to be also Carnival comes to mind, and so that's in there. Wizard also comes to mind. That's kind of in there. There's a playfulness, but like almost like just right on the edge of incomprehensible. So there's a scary element to it, but it's a playful scary.
Hey, welcome. We do things that's playfully and scary. Next up is in this fascinating first post Helene interview or commentary or conversation. Jordan Hall and Chad get to talking. We're gonna go over that next, as if there was some agency. That card of the show is the Four of Clubs, and our timestamp to play with is 25:30.
And I've talked to a couple of my other friends who are kind of Christian curious. They're more interested in the band and the Smoke Machine stuff. And they think that this other thing that I'm like, the church I'm a part of, it's too slow and the sermons are always the same. It's like, yeah, but that's why I like it. I like going there and knowing that there's a liturgy that I get to stand and sit, and I get to stand and sing songs I don't know, but learn them from most of my congregation there's like 200 people there. Most of them are like 70 years old and older. There are some younger families, but only a handful of us, because that's kind of a norm, I think. In general, like there aren't a lot of families right now, or historic, in comparison to historical settings. Like the people that I'm going to church with, they were born there, they were baptized there, they got married there, they had their confirmation there, they're gonna die there, their kids were raised there. So like it's interesting talking with them and sharing. They like we were doing we were watching The Chosen a few months ago and talking about it, and it was interesting because they didn't even have any experience with watching long form television. So like The Chosen to them was like, I don't understand. It's hard to follow. It was interesting, but then they want to know about like my actual conversion, and I'll tell them that story, and they're just like, that's so fascinating. I kind of wish that I had such an experience as yours. And I'm like, no, you don't. I wish I had the experience that you do, where you could just your whole life you've been able to see it and be in it, and you haven't had to wrestle with those different things. But then I think about that's like the glory of God is like it's not a Big Mac,
Yeah, well, there's also the notion of counterfactual is actually an illusion.
Now, see, the man on the right is about to get to do the part I have an objection to. That was all nice.
there's no notion of it actually having been otherwise. Like you can't wish the alternative because yours is yours, and it actually is specifically yours. And what happens is we try to substitute our ability to fantasize for our ability to be in relationship with reality. So, I mean, I get why we would do that, because at any given point in time, like I'm faced with a particular choice, and that choice isn't in fact before me. And then I can imagine a timeline where I had taken the alternative choice, right? That's just part of our basic faculties. And so therefore what I can do is I can kind of go backwards, and now notice what's happening though. It's a double imagination. I'm now imagining myself being far in the past, and then imagining that self making a different choice, and imagining a timeline. But that counterfactual thing is not actually real. It's not that wasn't a real possibility.
Right.
What we're doing in this situation is updating our background manually. It's something I recently noticed, is that stories are the way we have the intentionality network of facts and logic, and then we have the background axiomatic understandings about reality. And these imaginative timeline things are a way of we updating our own background. We tell ourselves a story. We live through our own story to update the background we're operating at in the present. And they're not useless imagining, sir.
So, yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's somewhat, increasingly as I spend time, it's a silly distraction, because the key is actually to be deeply immersed in your life as it actually is, and not worry very much about what could have been, because that's
Well, and there's like an unbeing about that, I think.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way of putting it. Exactly.
Like I was talking with my friend Luke, and we were, because it's often these kinds of this thread.
If you watch some home math, I think he calls it third order observation.
Of thinking, like kind of like the easy or like the quick quip thing to say would be like, well, what if Hitler was never born or something like that? It's like, no, if Hitler was never born, we would not have the band Rush. So let's like it's a ridiculous thing to think and say, but at the same time, it's like, no, it's not ridiculous, because that's the beauty and mystery of at least my experience with God is, like, we could say, well, it's a really terrible thing that you're an alcoholic, Chad. And it's like, no, it's not. It's been one of the greatest gifts. It's like God would use the power of alcohol to bring me crawling to him. And he knew that would be the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's heavy. You can say, yeah, it's very heavy.
It is heavy, and I don't want to play any more of this, but that's okay. We don't have to. I did want to show you a little bit about how branding could be made by doing this. First, you go over to a website that has the vintage aircraft carrier landings like this, and then you also go over to this-little-corner.com and search for land the plane. And then you find the part where it says it here.
About this abortion thing and killing live babies.
That is bad.
That I am concerned about other things. Yeah. Okay. So, but with God's help,
Let's
with God's help,
and then you go over to the other one and go to the next one where they say land the plane. It's here.
Holly G. I've been sitting next to this guy forever. It's contagious. But I thought we were gonna land the plane.
Oh,
not today. There's always one
anyway,
more.
That's how fun it is. Easy it is to make brandings.
But it was a false dawn.
It's time to land the plane. It's time to land the plane. No, wait, we can't land the plane. We have one more segment left. Really? Yeah, a whole segment. It's called...
The list? Yes, any of the first level ones.
I'm gonna get a soda. Anyone want one? Hey, Graham, I'm not in the room, right?
What room? I want to cast Magic Missile.
The room where he's casting all these spells from.
He hasn't cast anything yet. I am, though, if you'd listen. I'm casting Magic Missile. Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here. I'm attacking the darkness.
Fireworks. Oh, welcome, everybody. The next portion, next segment of the show we have is because of that Sherry lady you might have seen in the Hive Mind chat today. She sent me this article over from Arcadelia called Bye Bye Reality. And rather than read it, I cut and paste it into our new friend, the LM Notebook. And hopefully you can hear it while I show you the visuals. Let me know if you can't. If it goes, like when I change tabs to show you the visuals, if you can't hear it anymore, please put a corn. Anyway.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another.
All right, did you hear the AI voices say rabbit hole? Let me know.
Slime! What? It's a river of slime! Now what'll that asshole think of next? Is anybody got a dime?
All right. Then in that case, I'll just give you the audio of this creepy Arcadelia sum up by the AI slave bots. Here's this we'll do, and then we'll just give you the thumbnail. Stick it right in your thumbnail. There's. We've got this article, pasted text.
Online personas.
And not just like text posts and stuff, but we're talking selfie videos, the whole
Especially now, because now the mic is, boy howdy. All right, just pretend that never happened. Remember it.
This agency. We want.
About to go into a dark winter.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today we're tackling something, well, let's be honest, kind of unnerving.
Yeah, today we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole.
We are.
This is first fascinating because the AI recognizes the text as something outside of the boundaries of things that are not rabbit holes and says it's a rabbit hole. That's fascinating. It's a massaging of priming. It's priming your brain to categorize it in bullshit you don't say in public, right? Right.
Into this whole world of deep fakes, and specifically how the U.S. military seems to be getting in on the action.
That's right. And not just for, like messing around. We're talking about serious stuff here, like potential information warfare and propaganda.
Exactly. We've got this article, Pasted Text, that really...
We've got this article, Pasted Text,
lays it all out. And one of the things that really jumped out at me is how the Special Operations Command, they call it SOF, they're looking into using AI.
You call the Special Operations Command SOF? You could have explained that.
To create...
Oh, fake people.
Yeah, fake people. Not just like, doctoring up an existing photo or video, but like entirely fabricated online personas.
And not just like text posts and stuff, but...
What's that you say, Notebook LM? The government is interested in generating completely fake personas?
Up an existing photo or video, but like entirely fabricated online personas.
And not just like text posts and stuff, but we're talking selfie videos, the whole 9 yards. And it's not just some, far-fetched sci-fi stuff either. Like the tech is already there and it's getting
Very good, right?
Scary good. I mean, some of these deep fakes are so good, they can even fool the algorithms that social media companies
Some of them are so good, so good. Hey, Kiki.
use to try to weed this stuff out.
It's kind of freaking me out, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to know what's real anymore?
Yeah.
And that line from the article, reality is the last refuge, the real limit on power,
Yeah.
really stuck with me, because if we can't even agree on what's real, what kind of power does that give to people who can manipulate that?
Right. It's a fundamental shift in how we perceive and interact with the world. And it's not just happening in some vacuum either. We've already seen how tactics developed for, say, overseas conflicts.
Yep. Find their way back home.
Exactly. Look at what happened after 2016 with all this stuff about data collection and surveillance, techniques that were honed in the war on terror suddenly being used on U.S. soil. So it's not a stretch to imagine that same thing happening with deep fakes.
So, keep an eye out for videos shared on some random...
Keep an eye out for Avrio pilots and saying, remember, Embody, the most Reddit-addicted city was Elgin Air Force Base.
Website you've never heard of, or accounts that seem to have way more engagement that makes sense for their size.
Those are definitely red flags.
And as such, you should astroturf Grimgriz so people will believe that he might be an agent. This means that the individual's psyche is far from being safely synthesized. On the contrary, it threatens to fragment only too easily under the onslaught of unchecked emotions. While this situation is familiar to us from the studies of anthropologists, it is not so irrelevant to our own advanced civilization as it might seem. We too can become dissociated and lose our identity. We can be possessed and altered by moods or become unreasonable and unable to recall important facts about ourselves or others, so that people ask, what the devil has gotten into you? We talk about being able to control ourselves, but self-control is a rare and remarkable virtue. And so the belt of truth was that you should fast and remember who you really are, because you fasten the belt of truth. The storied background is the Jordan Hall part and how he was poo-pooing the notion of retconning our past, and how I think, but that's how we update. When we get an update to the background, the only way we can apply it is by retconning our past. Canadian deck card for the show is the Ace of Spades today, and that's a saint if Stephen converts it for us. Meanwhile,
About to go into a dark winter.
In all our searching, the only thing we found that makes the emptiness bearable is each other.